Hello guys, in this lecture I will be discussing about space and time complexity. So these things are very relevant for your interviews because in each and every problem when you solve in the interview, then the interviewer has to ask about what is your time complexity and how you should optimize that solution. So in this video I will be discussing time and space complexity in depth. So you no need to worry about that is it complete or it is incomplete. It is more than enough. So what is the definition of time complexity? So basically time complexity is just amount of time taken by an algorithm to run as a function of length of input. So what I have said, I'm writing and I'm making a txt file, time dot txt. So basically the amount of time taken by an algorithm to run as a function of length of input. So basically this is the definition, formal definition of time complexity. I will explain all those things. So basically what is time complexity as a layman language? So basically, is it the actual time taken by algorithm to execute? No, it is not, because it might differ for different processors. So if you write a code which is let's say printing a name or something else, it might be executed on latest machines like M4 chip in just less than 1 second, and in some older version of the processor like let's say some Intel i3 processor, so it may take more time as compared to the M4 chip. So it is not a time dependent, or this is not a basically machine dependent. So time complexity is basically general. So in most of the cases it is same. So basically why we should study about time complexity? So the reason are very simple. Good computer engineer always think about the complexity of code written by him. So basically if you are an engineer, okay, then you have to be focused about what kind of complexity do you actually writing in the code so that it can scale. Because if you write some code which is very, let's say, time taking, or which is its complexity is quite high, it will affect the whole system. So that's why you have to optimize your code. And as you know that resources are limited, your rams and your timing are very limited. So that's why you have to optimize. The reason is that, okay. And basically in every interview when you perform, they have to ask about what is the time complexity of your solution in each and every problem. So that's why you basically need to know about, okay. So basically if you write a code and the both code having same, and I have explained that both can take time as the processor. So as if the processor is quite fast and efficient, then it will execute the code faster. They might be same code. So this is not the thing that you have to listen. You have to just listen that you have to write some efficient code. You don't need to see what is the processor and how it will execute. You have to be very generic, not you have to be specific about time complexity. You just have to think, okay, this is my code and it will be running for same for each and every system, okay. So let's move forward and let's see what is space complexity. So space complexity, I'm just writing the code. Before that I'm just copying and just word wrapping so that you can find it out, okay. So what is space complexity? So space complexity, so basically amount of space taken by an algorithm to run as a function of length of input. So that's how this space complexity is defined. same as time. So basically, how so basically this spelling of amount is wrong. Okay, so basically, what is the amount of space the algorithm is taking so that it can run as a length of function. So here's the length of function means the overall function, not you have to just dealing with each and every line. Yeah, overall the function, it is included that it must be concluded, it must be having with the number of lines of code of its length. So I'm writing very specific definition. You have to, if someone asks what is time complexity or space complexity, you just need to just answer that what space it is taking in the memory. So that can be executed. So this is the definition. So let's see and do some example and just find it out what is the space and time complexity in each cases. So for a variable, let's you define, let's say that a is equal to 5, then what space it is taking or what time it is taking. So basically it is a variable. Okay, and let's say this is your array, sort of 1 2 3 4 and 5. So this is your array. Okay, this is your array and this is your variable. Okay, so basically these both are taking o of one space or o of one timing. Okay, so that's how all the things is being developed. So this is the time. Okay, so there are three concepts in time and space complexity, which are units of representation, units of represent complexity, either it is time or space. The first one is big O, another one is theta, which is this kind of thing, which is sort of cube. uh, there is no symbol for that or any keyboard. This is like theta, as you have know that what is sine theta cos theta. And another is omega. Like okay, so basically this is, big O is for basically worst case or upper bound, this is for worst, this is average, and this is your best case situation. These are the units to represent your time complexity or space complexity. Okay, so basically, as I have told you that in previous lectures, that how you find a element in an array which was linear search, then if you basically go from, let's say 1 2 3 4 and 5, and let's say your target is, let's say 3, or let's say okay 3, then what you should do, you have just starting off with 1, then you just ask that 1, is it equal to 3? No, it is not. Then move forward to 2, is it equal to 3? No, it is not. Then move forward, is it equal to 3? Yes, it is. Then just you have to break out from that loop. Basically you're traversing each and every element. Then what should be the complexity of this code, which will be equal to O of n. Why? Because if you traverse in whole array, then the worst possible thing is that you have to traverse from 1 to 5. So you have to complete, you are starting off with 1, and if the size of the array is n, then you have to traverse from n minus 1th element. It means that the overall complexity of your code is equal to O of n. So what are the three possible cases here? So if you find 5, then you have to go from 1 to 5, which is the worst. It will be taking 5 units, and if the let's say the target is 3, then it might find you in just average things. And what is the best thing? Just you have to find 1, because it is on the 0th index. So this is the best complexity of this particular code. So that's how all the three things has been defined: omega, big, or big, theta, or omega. So let's move forward and see some more examples. So how many types of time complexities? So what are the, generally they ask in interview about big O's. Okay, so how many types of big O's? So there are some kind of like O of 1, like O of n sort of O of log n, then O of n to the power 2, or O to the power n to the power 3, and so on up to O to the power n to the power n. So that's how the whole code is working. That the best complexity means that you find on your first index. So this is the best thing that happened in your code, which is O of 1. It is the perfect time complexity. If you basically do a code, if you write some logic and the logic is in O of 1 complexity, this is the perfect case. After that, this is very good. And no, before this is the best. So because if you see mathematically, log n is faster than n log, well, O of n, and after that O of n square, then n cube, or O to the power n to the power n. So that's how the whole thing is working. As the this thing is increasing way, so as the basically if you're moving from left to right, then the complexity of the code is increasing. So you have to minimize the complexity, and you have to be like that in opposite direction. You have to moving your code from, if you basically do code in O of n square, then your target is to be at least it should be on n log n, or O of n, or O of log n. So that's how the whole thing is working. So let's move forward and see some examples. They might ask you in interviews, like let's say they might not ask you, but you have to understand. Let's say for example, what is the complexity. Let's say I'm just doing some, let's say I'm printing I. So what it will be printing, if I'm taking from user, but it will be not working because I'm not including anything. So let's include all those stuffs. Include IO stream using namespace std. Okay, so let's see. Let's say int n. Let's take the input from user for int I is equal to 0, I less than n, I plus plus, cout I. Just print it out about, let's say 10, and it will be printing from 0 to 9. So basically someone will ask you what is the complexity. So you have to just see that what is your input. So you got your input, which is equal to 10. Then just see how your code is working from starting to the end. So how many iteration it is taking, so that you can easily find it out what is the complexity. So basically you have to just see that from where your loop is starting, which is equal to 0, and how many times it is going to be executed. So it is going to it is basically starting off with 0 and ending with n minus 1. So it is starting with 0 and ending with n minus 1. Here n is equal to 10, so that's how it is 9. So basically it is working n times, because it is starting with 0 and ending with n minus 1. So that's how the complexity of this code is O of n. So I think I'm able to explain it to you. So let's move forward. So if someone will ask you, so basically there is a trick I will explain. Like if someone will ask you, then it will be very easy for you, because you can't dry run all those stuffs. If someone will ask you interview, then you have to do all those stuffs, but at least you have an idea that yeah, it is going to be like that. Because these things leads more time. Basically it will be taking more efforts to calculate you from your test cases. So just you have to printing the I or comma j. You can just execute it. Let's say I'm giving n is equal to 6. So it is printing 0 0 0 1 0 2 0 3 0 4 up to 5 5. Okay, so basically it is executing how many times. Okay, so I think it is let's see for small test cases. Let's say n is equal to 3 code. Okay, so let's delete all those stuffs. N is equal to 3. So it is printing 9 times. You can see 1 2 3 3 6 and then 9. So it is basically I'm giving an input n, then it is printing n square is equal to 9. If you give, let's say, n is equal to 4, it will be printing 16 times. You can easily see 4, 4, 4, and then 4. So it is equal to 16 times. So that's how the whole code is working, n square times. So just you can easily see, if a for loop is having another for loop inside in the main for loop, then you have to just multiply this into this thing. So n multiplied by n, that is equal to n square. So that's how the whole code is working, and you can easily find it out what is the complexity of this particular code. So let's move forward and uh, see for more cases. I'm just copy pasting and just doing the same thing, which is like that, and adding some more for loops. So let's see, for n is equal to 3. So it is printing 27 times. You can easily see, let's say for small test cases, let's say n is equal to 2, then it will be printing 8 times, 4, and just for 4. So it is printing n to the power 3 times. So if you're giving n is equal to 2, then it is printing 8 times. So that's how 2 to the power 3, which is equal to 8. If you're giving 3, then it will be printing 27 times. You can see it here, it is 27 times. So there is a n multiplied by n multiplied by n. So this is how 27 is n cube is the overall complexity of that particular code. If someone will find it out that what is the complexity of this code, and let's define the value of n. So let's see. Okay, and is redefinition. Okay, I have defined. Okay, okay, so let's say n is equal to 5, then it is printing 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then printing from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can easily find the pattern that if you are giving n, then it is printing 2n times. So basically the complexity is equal to O of 2n, and you can ignore the value of 2 and just write O of n. So basically it is not, this for loop is not inside this for loop, so that's why the complexity is just adding, like if this will starting with 0 and ending with n, then the overall complexity from line number 43 to 45 should be equals to O of n, and from 46 to 48 the complexity of the code is O of n. So that's how both are added. So after adding both the uh, code, you can write O of 2n. So that's how the overall complexity is O of n. So basically, let's move forward and see some more examples. So basically, in basic, let's move on this txt file. So if someone will ask you about, like, these kind of questions might be asked in your interviews, like if it is given like 2 multiplied by n to the power 3 plus 4 multiplied by n plus 8. So then just find the complexity of the overall course. Then you have to just ignore this constant term and just go and see what is the highest power of the n. So you can easily find it out, this, and just copy and just write this thing, and O of the same thing. That's it. Your task is to just copying the highest term and just ignore all the constants over there. Let's move forward and solve some more problem. So if the question is like that, O of n is equal to 4 multiplied by n to the power let's say 6 plus 8. So you have to just see ignore this constant term and just go and see the highest power of n and just print out, just writing O and then just 6. So that's how you can practice more problem on that. Just you have to ignore the constant term and just find the maximum power of n and just ignore the initial constant if there is a constant like either here 2 or 4, and just write the n with the highest power. So that's how the whole code is working. So let's move forward. And the least complexity, as as I have mentioned, was what? O of 1, and the worst is O of n to the power n. So this is the most complex code. You can't write this kind of things in your interviews, so you have to make it as efficient as it can be. So let's move forward and see some more problems. So let's say a is equal to 0, then you have to find the complexity. Let b is equal to 0, okay, and there is a n and there is a n, m and n and m, okay, and you have to just taking input the value of n and m from the user, okay, and after that you have to printing this statement for int I is equal to 0, I less than n and I plus plus, and after that you have to just printing hi or hey Ayush, just space over there and writing here handle. After that for int j is equal to 0, j less than m, j plus plus, C out hi, okay. So let's execute all the things. I have defined the value of n, so I have to comment it out. So I'm giving the value of m is let's say 5 and the n is let's say 6. So this 5, this basically the value of n which I have given 5, then here you should be printing 5 times. So 1 2 3 4 and 5. So if I'm giving the value of n as an input, then it is printing n time, means that this have the complexity of O of n. And if I'm giving the input as a 6 which is equal to n, and how many high is printing 1 2 3 1 2 3 which is equal to 6, so it is also equal to O of n. So the overall complexity is equal to what? O of n. What is the complexity of this thing? Int a is equal to 0, it is taking O of 1 space. This O of 1, this O of 1, this O of 1. If you are considering this C in n or m, it is also taking O of n. From this to this, it is taking O of n and O of n, and this is O of n. So overall the complexity from line number 50 to 61 is equal to O of m plus O of n, which is equal to O of m plus n. Let's move forward and see some more problem. So the same thing, int a is equal to 0. I am taking same kind of problem so that your concepts will be crystal clear. You don't have to see any kind of tutorials or documentation for understanding the meaning of time and space complexity. I'm just taking the values of n. For taking input, I have to define some sort of value of n, okay. I'm just going to write something like int I is equal to 0, I less than n, I plus plus, and just int j is equal to n, j greater than I, and j minus minus. This is sort of different type of problem, and just you have to print hi Ayush, let's say. So your task is to find the complexity of this particular problem. So for that reason, you have to just execute this code and just give an input of n and just see how many times it is printing, and you have to just make a relation that if I am giving the value of n is that this, and this printing the overall number of outputs is that, then you have to just build a relation that how many, if I'm giving n is equal to let's say 5, then how many output is producing? So it is producing, I think, 1 2 3. It is quite long, so let's do for a small. Let's say the value is 3, then it is printing 1. Hey Ayush, 2 3 1 2 3. It is printing how much? 6 times. Okay, let's see for another. Let's say 4. So it is printing 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 times it is printing. Okay, so if you basically see that this code is starting with 0 and ending with n, so this will take this from here to here. It will take, it is starting with 0 and ending with n, so overall it will be executing n times. And it is starting with 0 and ending with I, from where I is starting 0, so it is going to be from I is equal to uh, 0 to n, so it is also going from uh, what, n. So overall the complexity of this line number 68 to 72 should be equals to O of n square. So that's how the whole code is working. And as you have initially have mentioned that from line number 64 to 66, these are taking O of one space. So that's how the overall complexity of this code is O of n square. So let's see for some more cases if we have possible. So if someone will ask about specifically not about time complexity, just explain the space complexity of this particular problem. If int a is equal to, let's say, 4, then the value of a space complexity is quite simple, that O of 1, as simple as that. If you build an array of, let's say, size 5, it is also taking O of 1. Okay, but if you basically allocate memory dynamically, then it might change, like it int star a is equal to new int of, let's say, if you are making a size of n, then it will be taking O of n space. So that's how this code will taking why n it giving an error, because I'm not defining it, so it will not giving an error. Okay, now it is giving an error. Why? Because of this. It's absolutely fine. So this will be giving O of n complexity. So the space complexity I'm talking about. Let's see for this. Int star b is equal to new int n to the power 2. So it is giving me the overall complexity should be equals to or n square. Why? Directly see here. Because it is making a space in a heap, and the space should be equals to of n square. If you giving the value of n is equal to 5, then it will be creating a 25 size of block in the heap memory. So that's how the whole thing is working. I've explained everything about time, space, complexity, and what kind of question that can be asked in your interviews. So you have to basically, whenever you are writing code, you have to be focused about what is your time and space complexity. You can ignore some way space, but you have to think about the time complexity. Thanks for watching this video, guys. If you like this video really helpful, then please like this video, share with your friends, and subscribe.